Welcome back to Nick's Drum Lessons. This is just a quick tutorial about snare drum parts as well as changing out your heads and tuning of a snare drum. I've often said if you can change out the heads and tune up a snare drum, it does make life a lot easier to tune toms and bass drums, okay? So how do we know when the time is right to change out your head, okay? I've often said that it is the best time when you start to see it kind of the rim and the head start to be at an even playing field, right? That rim should be above quite a bit. I would say about a half an inch above. But when they start seeing it as an even playing field, time to turn out the heads. This is not terrible. It's just I wanted to change out this to just a regular Remo Ambassador coated, which is kind of the premier go-to snare drum head. You can see on the snare side that is actually starting to even out. It is time to change this head out because it is pretty much stretched to its limit, and it's just time to get it anew, okay? So just a brief tutorial on the parts of the snare drum. You always have a shell. This is a Ludwig Salesman Classic Maple. So it is wood. We have the shell. We have the lugs or lug casings. We have the tension rods. We have the drum rims, sometimes referred to as hoop. You have the batter side. That's the side you hit. Think baseball, batter, rim. We have the snare side head. You could always tell the snare side heads because they are always the thinnest head that you should have on your kit. If it's too thick of a head, it basically will just not make those snares active. What makes a snare drum is the snares. The snare should have a snare side rim, and you can see there by the hole. So we have the batter rim, the batter head, the snare side rim, snare side head, which is the thinnest head. We have the actual snares, which makes it a snare drum. You have the throw off. You have the fine tuner. You have also the snare cord or strap. And then you have the butt side plate, okay? So let us get it going, okay? Now, I'm going to be using a drill to unscrew it. Just saves me a ton of time. So, and that's just got a drum key bit to it. So I'm not going to be particular. When you're taking the drum head off, it doesn't matter which order you go. You can go in a circle. Won't ruin anything because you're getting rid of it. Now, before I take it off, I'm going to get ready for a paper towel and some Windex. And you'll see why in a minute here. So we can just get that. Of course, I spilled it all over the place. Now, when I take that rim off, I'm just going to clean all the stick boogers and dust that is collected. So I'm going to clean that up. Perfect, perfect. And I typically do this in like my workshop where I can have a vac shop and clean that up. Here, for the sake of recording, I'm going to do it on the actual drum set, but here's why I do it in the shop. You're just going to see a bunch of dust. Now, while I have that rim off as well as the head, I'm just going to clean up the bearing edge. The bearing edge is the slope of the wood or the shell where the head rests on. Okay, so we cleaned that up. Notice I still have the tension rods in there. Now, I'm going to grab that new head. And like I said, I'm going to be using just a Ambassador. It's your go-to one. Now, if you're like most people, I like to be matchy-matchy. So I'm going to make sure that that logo is with the logo of the Ludwig. Okay, so I'll actually switch out the cameras here so you can see. Switch that around. Okay. Now it doesn't matter, but you can see there's the badge, and there's the badge. So again, if you're a little particular like me, that's good. Now, I've got the head resting, the new head on. I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure so that it actually rests on that bearing edge. Now, here's the thing. When you get a new head, just hand tighten everything, okay? Let me get a better angle here. There we go. So I'm just going to do everything by hand and get it as tight by hand as possible, okay? I'm going to go around. You can do it 2 at once. Just go back a hair just to make sure they're all tight. What it does is create a nice even playing field to start with, right? So hand tight, hand tight. Perfect. Okay, so I'll go over it one last time. And I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure into it, stretch it out a little bit. All right, now I'm going to take my drum key, which is shameful. Now I'm going to be using this guy here, but I'm going to start at 12 o'clock. Imagine your drum as a clock. So I'm going to go start with 2 full turns. Oops. And now I'm going to go at 1 o'clock. You go diagonal, and you can already hear it kind of stretching out. I'll get the microphone so you can hear it stretch and crack. That's normal. So half, 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 half. That's 2 full turns. I'm going to go diagonal, and that would be maybe at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock there. Oh, now I'm stretching it. You can hear it stretching. Oh, I can already hear it tuning up there. Now, that gave me even playing field as far as tension. I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit. Sometimes I use my palm. I think of giving it CPR, as I tell my students. Give it CPR, stretch it out. You do see some people stand on drum heads. I don't quite get that myself, but to each their own. Now I'm just going to go after it 1 full turn more. Because I know in the definitely the first day of playing it, it's just going to stretch out again. So I'm going to go a little high in tuning, right? All right, what I'm looking for and feeling for is any wrinkles, but I shouldn't have any wrinkles because of starting from scratch and make sure everybody's fully tightened by hand, then giving an equal distribution of turns. So I'm just going to let that be. Now, the snare side head is a pain. What I'm going to do first is take the snares off, okay? So you unscrew it. Sometimes they take a Phillips or a screwdriver. These Atlas snare butt plates and throw-offs. Just take a drum key. I'm just going to take that completely out of the equation and set it aside for right now. Perfecto. All right. Now, let me rest that on the snare drum for right now, or the snare stand. Let me get my drill ready. You can see some snare drum eye boogers coming out of there. Basically just stick particles dropping. They find a way. It's like sand. It just finds a way to get into everything. Now, because these snare side heads, and they're usually very, well, they should be, all very clearly marked. Let me get the mic out of the way here. I'm going to get that Windex rag, and I'm going to clean all that out of there. All right. The snare side head will be clearly labeled. You can see there, snare side head, ambassador snare side. All right. Now, again, same thing. Just clean that bearing edge. While I'm at it, because this will be the last opportunity before I put the new head on, just to turn it over, get all that dust out. You know, if you have an air compressor or condensed air can, you can just blow a little air in there. If not, just blow on it. All right, one last little clean up. Now we've got our new snare side head, ambassador snare side, okay? Again, logo to logo, and here's the important part. Make sure your holes align with your butt plate and throw off, because you're gonna be going, oh crap, if you forget that little step, okay? Same thing, we are going to just hand tighten this puppy. Tight, 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 by hand, as much as one can do with hand pressure. Even playing field. Let me just give it a little press. Now, why not the drill on this? Why? I need to be able to control how many times I'm turning it. And you just torque that the wrong way, you're a goner. You'll be stretching that head out too soon too. Yeah, it just wouldn't be good. So we're going to do this without the drill. All right, even playing field, okay? Again, start at 12 o'clock, 2 full turns. Okay? Which is basically 4 half turns. Okay, get at 1 o'clock. That was a little loose. Okay, I'm going to go over these with my hands one more time because I'm noticing they were a little too loose. Okay, now I got it. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4 half turns, which was 2 full turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna give it CPR, stretch it out a little bit, but be delicate, be delicate. This is a thin head, and now I'm just going to go 1 full turn, 1 more. Okay? Now the bottom heads will stretch because they are the thinnest heads. So they're gonna be fine-tuning in that first week, first day, but at least this gets you going, okay? You're really going to hear that stretch, okay? So again, just feeling for wrinkles. Nope, shouldn't have any because of that equal distribution. This is a very important step, okay? Turn your snares off and lefty-loosey the finey turn quite a bit. See, you're going to see that casing outside that snare throw off lower quite a bit. Good. This will give me plenty of torque and tension to fine-tune the snares, okay? Snares will just have a tendency to need to be tightened up over time. What happens is you start to lose room to play. So when you're changing out that head, lower that quite a bit, okay? Now, let me put those snares on. Now you start, again, make sure that the welds are on the bottom, meaning touching the heads. And the face side is more visible to you as the tuner or player. Obviously, you're not playing this side. Now, you just feed that. Now, the great debate is plastic straps or nylon straps versus cord. Honestly, it depends on the snare. I have a couple of vintage snares that cord works great. Um, and to me, it just pulls even a little bit more tension. But on newer snare drums, these straps are fine. They work good. I've never really had too much issue breaking. Now, I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit. Let me go there. Let me go back to this camera here. All right, what I'm going to be doing first is doing the butt plate first, and I'm trying to get that curvature. Let me lower it a little bit for the camera. I'm trying to get that curvature maybe 1/8 of an inch from the bearing edge. Because once you get that going, then you could play with the other side quite a bit. So those go between the two casings of the butt plate. I'm just going to pull it as much even as I can. Just do that again here. Perfect. Okay, let me actually turn it around so you can see it a little better. So again, trying to get that curvature, aligning it about 1/8 of an inch. Press down, tighten that as much as you can without stripping. Okay, there's going to be a little fine tuning here in a second. So I notice I'm kind of hugging that curvature to the back, to the bearing edge a little bit. Now I'm pulling it away. Good, good, good. All right. Now, snare's off. That throw off. Gonna feed that right through again. I don't know how those got tight already. Loosen those up. Good. Feed those through. Now snare's off. And again, I'm not going to pull too tight. And you can see now that that curvature is going to be maybe now 1/4 of an inch away from the bearing edge. Nice. Now when I pull that on, now it stretches a bit, right? Now I've got that 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch distance. I have a little bit of overlap there, so I'm going to maybe toy with that, but let me take a listen to how this sounds first. Okay, because now I have plenty of room to mess with it, right? Honestly, it already sounds pretty cool. Okay, now it's probably a little too tight. I'm just going to loosen it. Okay. Get the mic back on it. Okay. I'm going to just go in a triangular, see if I tune it up, if I like it a little better. Okay, cool. That got me there. Cool. I like it, okay? So that's a quick tutorial. I say quick, but your first one is always going to take you an hour, okay? But if you follow those steps and start to learn along the way, it makes changing out the toms or the bass drum a lot easier. You just don't have to fool with any of the snare wires and the throw-offs and the butt plates, okay? The bottom head was tuned a little higher, but I know I'm going to kind of toy with that as it stretches, right? But there should give you a good overview of, you know, tuning up a snare drum. You're trying to avoid it sounding rattly. You don't want that. And what did I do there? I just found that medium setting of completely off versus on. You don't want your snares to sound like this. Oh, that's god awful, okay? And most of the time why that happens is that things need to be tuned up a little bit because things stretch, but then that fine tuner needs to be tuned up a little bit as well, so righty-tighty. If you find that you can't turn it to the right anymore, then you have to realign your snares. Remember, take your snares off, loosen that up again, and then realign them like we taught you there, okay? So that's a quick tutorial on changing out heads, the parts of the snare drum, and how to get at least a really good snare sound in a short amount of time. Now, again, once you get to that even playing field, you can toy with it a little bit. Maybe use little moon gels, like I have a little thing that looks like a ghost. Okay, that just kills some of the overtone a little bit. Some people use the rings here, like these. But honestly, if you have a decent snare and you've tuned it up well, you don't need a lot of the gimmicks, right? So, with that being said, that is nicksdrumlessons.com. Check me out there if you're looking for private lessons. I do that in person as well as on Skype. And this same layout that you see is what you see during lessons, okay? So I've got that technology down, okay? So with that being said, I'll see you next time.